Denver says that people dying in its homelessness program aren't counted as a negative outcome, as City Council struggles to learn how much is being spent on the mayor's top priority.
We just need to see that. This feels really incomplete to me.
A woman gets a $125,000 Xcel bill and gets it fixed by threatening to call next. I'll ask President Biden's health secretary if the administration's failure to secure the border means they should be helping Denver Health care for all the migrants here.
This administration has done everything it can under the law.
And together, we'll help. A unique cafe where people who can't pay are invited to volunteer in the kitchen, job training to help them find a paycheck. That's tonight on Next. We learned something shocking about Denver's homelessness initiative today. Not the cost. No, the mayor's office still can't explain that to us or to City Council. But as City Council questioned where all the money is going, that's when we learned that Denver doesn't count someone dying to be a bad outcome of the homelessness initiative. Here's Mark Salinger.
All right, great. So the agenda that we have today, we are going to be getting a briefing and we have an action item.
We came to Denver City Council in search of answers. What we found were more questions from everyone.
What is the monthly cost on average for the hotel site?
Is 46 million needed? Was it needed for the first House 1,000 goal?
So we are looking at actuals of $75 million in 2024.
We just need to see that. This feels really incomplete to me.
It's a simple question, really, or at least we think so. How much is the mayor's House 1000 homelessness initiative costing? We thought we'd find out at this presentation, titled House 1000 Financials. We didn't.
Our actual expenses in 2023 came in much lower than we had anticipated. Only $10.3 million were spent in 2023.
$10.3 million is the only real number the mayor's office can give for how much money has been spent so far. But we know more than $110 million has already been approved by City Council. So where's all the money going? We aren't the only ones asking.
And help me understand and not be so shocked that you only spent $10 million.
The story that Next has been telling you about for days now has the attention of other cameras. Today, we also learned the vast majority of people exiting House 1000 shelters are leaving to be homeless again, go to jail, or even dying.
Do we have an idea of why we are seeing that 73% of the people who are exiting into a negative outcome?
So just want to start with talking about outcomes. We and our partners don't count deceased as a negative outcome. There are many reasons why people could...
I'm not sure I'm comfortable with that.
While the city doesn't count death as a negative outcome, let's say more positive outcomes seem hard to come by. Of the roughly 1,000 people who moved into hotels or micro-communities after living on the streets, the city's dashboard says only 21 have left with leases of their own for permanent housing.
How are we going to improve our outcome rate? Because, we're spending a significant amount of dollars, tax dollars. We have to be able to say to our taxpayers that we're using those dollars wisely. And I want to be very clear.
There's been at least 2 shootings, 7 deaths, and around 500 911 calls to the former Doubletree Hotel in Central Park that's now being used as a shelter. Today, we learned that shelter is operating with about 50% staff. There are about 30 open positions right now. Safety has always been a concern there, but we had no idea, Kyle, that they're operating at such short staff.
Explain this to me again, how somebody can end up dead in Denver's homeless shelter and that's not a negative outcome.
So I want to make sure that I get this right, so I'm going to read it. The primary reason that the city says they don't count dying as a negative outcome is because they say someone is dying inside, which is better than dying frozen outside.
Some of these people were killed, right? Like they were killed in the shelter.
That is the, quote, primary reason.
Good Lord. All right, Mark, thank you. Republican leaders in Douglas County are citing Next's recent reporting on migrants in Denver to justify Dougco's new ordinance against busing migrants to that county. We want to be clear here. Dougco acknowledges it has no evidence that any migrants have arrived there, and Denver insists it's only offering bus tickets to migrants who want to go out of state. Last night, DOCO commissioners unanimously passed an ordinance banning commercial passenger vehicles like buses from making unscheduled drop-offs in unincorporated parts of the county. Drivers who violate that could be fined, vehicle could be impounded. The ordinance does not explicitly mention migrants, but county commissioners say that they've been rushing to implement this new rule, effective immediately, because Next obtained video of Denver's migrant liaison warning newly arrived migrants that Denver is so out of resources they should leave for a different state.
I think we saw an expose done by one of our television networks this last weekend that shows that, listen, the city and county of Denver are killing these migrants that are currently in their shelters. You have to leave. You can't stay here. They're running out of resources. There will come a time when we will need this ordinance, and it might be sooner than later.
This week, Denver's closing 3 of its 4 migrant hotel shelters as the migrant population in those shelters has dropped from 5,000 early this year to about 700 now. Health and Human Services Secretary Javier Becerra came to Colorado today to promote the Biden administration's work on health care in the Latino community. The event was held in Commerce City, not far from the Suncor oil refinery, Colorado's largest polluter, whose operating permit has been approved by the Biden administration's EPA over the objections of local Latino health groups. I began today's next conversation by asking Secretary Becerra if that is treating the symptoms but not the root cause of health issues in Latino communities near Suncor.
Well, we can certainly get into the conversation about what we need to do to grow a healthy society. But we're not going to wait until that is resolved, because there are families today who need access to care. And Congressman Caraveo here, who represents the area, can tell you that we're going to do everything we can to reach families today with the health care that we have. And the good thing is that we have community health centers like here. We have access to care through mobile health clinics that are reaching families that oftentimes didn't have access to the care. And because of President Biden's effort, it's now much more affordable. But no doubt, we need to have a healthy environment. You need to have a healthy neighborhood if you're going to hope to ever grow strong and healthy kids who will be our future leaders.
Full disclosure, the Secretary's team required that Democratic Congresswoman Yadira Caraveo be standing there by his side while we interviewed him. In a moment, our next conversation continues. I asked the Secretary if the Biden administration, because it has not secured the southern border, should be financially supporting safety net hospitals like Denver Health, which are now struggling to pay for migrants' health care. So there is a place to eat on East Colfax where the special each day is the impact on the people who walk in the door. This week's Word of Thanks microgiving campaign supports the Same Cafe, Same, so all may eat. People stopping in for a meal at the Same Cafe can pay for it. They can donate produce from their garden in exchange for the meal, or they can volunteer there in return for the meal. And that is where the life-changing impact can happen, because those volunteer hours in the kitchen are part of a formalized career training program called Cook to Eat. Almost 700 people got nearly 6,000 hours of job training there last year. Same Cafe welcomes everyone, but for people who are often living on the margins of society, that meal becomes an invitation to volunteer and then learn culinary skills that can help those folks land a job and create stability in their lives. Same Cafe builds community around one thing we all have in common: the need to sit down for a healthy meal. And they served more than 20,000 of them last year. Scan the QR code on your screen or text the word THANKS to 303-871-1491 to get that link to donate. You know I will never ask you to give to a cause that I don't support myself, and you have proven that even $5 donations add up. So, as always, I will match the first 50 donations of $5 that come in. More than 2,000 of you have now signed up to simplify your giving with a monthly donation to the Word of Thanks Fund, and that meant an extra $15,000 boost for every nonprofit we featured last month. You put in your info once, your donation is automatically split among every nonprofit we support. Use that same QR code or text to get there. When Next returns, our question to a Biden cabinet secretary about the border crisis's effect in Colorado that elicited this from his staff.
Thank you.
His answer, next. Denver Health's financial struggles these days are due in part to the uncompensated cost of caring for migrants. Today, I asked U.S. Health and Human Services Secretary Javier Becerra if the federal government should be offering more support to Denver Health because the Biden administration hasn't secured the southern border. We heard a lot about Denver Health today. Denver Safety Net Hospital is in financial crisis right now due to the cost of uncompensated care. A portion of it, certainly not a majority, but about $10 million over 16 months, was care for migrants who have come into Denver Health. Given the fact that it's the Biden administration that has been unable to secure the southern border, is it incumbent upon you to find some discretionary HHS funds to help Denver Health stay afloat as it spends millions to care for migrants?
So I want to make sure one thing is very clear. The border is and I'm not I'm not the Department of Homeland Security, but I will tell you this: there is a process that is at work. The laws in our immigration system have been broken for a long time, and this administration has done everything it can under the law. That's the important part, under the law, to make sure that we handle the border properly. But no doubt, we all have an obligation to try to be there to support each other as we care for those who need health care in our communities.
You'll note that the Secretary did not actually answer the question at all about whether Denver Health should get more federal funding as a result of uncompensated migrant care. The Secretary's office did not respond to our follow-up asking for an answer on that. My full unedited next conversation with Secretary Becerra is on the next YouTube channel. And there, I also ask him whether the Biden administration's plan to save Americans money on prescription drugs is actually just going to shift some of those costs to what people pay in insurance premiums and deductibles. So we've been telling you about the trucking school shut down for violations and how the state is retesting its drivers. Well, good thing, because we learned today that more than half the drivers failed or did not show up for the retest. The Colorado DMV required nearly 200 truckers retest for their commercial driver's license after the state shut down the Randy Lopez CDL Testing and Training Center out of Loveland. We got a hold of state documents showing that the driving school scored its tests incorrectly, gave drivers credit for parts of the test they never took, and did not record speeding violations. The state required a retest for all the drivers who got their CDL there in the 6 months before the school was closed. The DMV now tells us that 47% of those drivers passed, 37% of them failed, and the rest did not show up for the retest. Those fails and no-shows now lose their CDLs. The DMV told us that given that whopping failure rate, they are reconsidering retesting all of the truckers that came out of that school. On a 70-degree day, Kathy Sabins here for a look ahead.
A beautiful spring day, Kyle. 71 in the city now, 12 degrees above average, and will go warmer for Thursday and for Friday for the Rockies home opener. Beautiful conditions for the drive home tonight on I-25 and blue skies and light winds in the high country. We do have a storm we're tracking for the weekend, and it'll be a windy Friday with the threat for high fire danger as winds, which are relatively light tonight, increase Friday ahead of this Pacific storm, which is just now moving onshore off the coast of central California. We'll see this storm move in over the next 72 hours. Warm, dry weather ahead of it. A very windy day on Friday and temperatures very mild. Mid-60s now. We drop 10 degrees after sunset. We'll look for low to mid-70s for Thursday and for Friday ahead of a cool, unsettled weekend with a chance for a rain or snow shower both Saturday and Sunday. We're tracking another storm for Tuesday of next week. So pretty active weather pattern as we move through the middle part of April.
A restaurant owner's shock of a six-figure Xcel bill gets fixed fast when they threaten to call next. Why does it have to be like this, Xcel? Why? Xcel customers, let me give you a little secret when you're having a customer service issue. Press 9, as in tell them that you know Marshall Zellinger from 9 News, because that is apparently how you get a ridiculously high bill corrected.
When you're in the mountains, you just expect to pay a little more. Take Minturn, for example, just outside Vail. Maybe costs are just a mini amount more.
The bill is shocking me because it's a big number.
Patty, who owns Thai Kitchen, called us about the not-so-mini turn of events with her Xcel bill.
And the bill come up at $125,000 something dollars.
For 7 days in December, Xcel believed Thai Kitchen used nearly 1 million kilowatt hours of energy, the same amount of electricity an average home might use in 100 years. for this restaurant that seats about 2 dozen. Nearly 1 million kilowatt hours in 1 week totaled $110,000. Add in the rest of the month, the gas part of the bill, and oh yeah, $10,000 in sales tax, and Patty owed $124,791.04.
So I make a phone call right away to the Xcel Energy, and I talked to somebody on the phone, and they said they will fix. It's clearly wrong.
You think? Patty said customer service warned it could take 4 to 6 weeks. 8 weeks later, her bill still had not reduced. Then, Xcel sent her this, a final notice about utility shutoff, a disconnection warning, unless she paid $124,000. Thank you.
So I tell the lady over the phone, like, if this not going to be fixed, I'm going to reach out the news. 9 News.
Wouldn't you know, soon after that, the bill was chopped. The restaurant, which is only open 5 hours a day, 5 days a week, is back to an electric bill that is more min and less turn your stomach.
How does this happen? I spoke with people at Xcel today, and the company apologizes for this. It's a mixture of human error when swapping out the meter with a new smart meter, this thing, and error with customer service missing one data entry that would have stopped the connection notice from being sent out. Human error.
How do you have time to do your job here at 9 News? You also have a young daughter at home, and you are now apparently the Xcel customer service agent of last resort for this entire state.
Well, I'm doing my taxes right now, but it's only work I do at 9 News that is on the taxes, so I'm missing something somewhere.
Send this man a W-2 for his effort. We appreciate it, as does the owner of the cafe in Minturn. Thank you, Marshall. We're back here with your feedback about politicians and our approach to them. Next. Same Cafe on East Colfax in Denver offers everyone a meal, 20,000 meals a year, whether they can pay or not. I mean, you can pay, or you can donate produce, or you can volunteer some hours there at the cafe. And that is how Same Cafe offers thousands of hours of job training each year. Customers can train for culinary jobs for free just in return for their meal. It's a win for them. It's a win for employers who really need workers with those skills. This turns lives around. Scan the QR code on your screen or text the word thanks to 303-871-1491 to join me in giving to the Same Cafe. When you go there, you'll see an option to give just this week, or you can make things simpler by giving to every Word of Thanks nonprofit we feature through a monthly donation to the Word of Thanks Fund. Feedback from Mary, who says that she loves Denver Health and gets excellent care there, but she worries about the expense of their current TV ad campaigns and why they're doing that. It's interesting, Mary, the CEO of Denver Health alluded to that in an interview here on Next a couple months ago, when she said that she wants Denver Health to be more like the other hospitals that bring in more private insurance payer dollars, that could pad their bottom line. How do hospitals do that? One way is by advertising. Feedback from Sudeb tonight, hope I pronounced your name correctly, who says there's a reason we don't like politicians, and Secretary Becerra's answer to you is the reason for that. I'm going to withhold the name on this last commenter, who says, thank you for asking the hard questions about Denver's mayor's spending and lack of accountability. As a city employee, I find this very unethical. We will continue to ask questions of politicians all over the political spectrum because at the end of the day, they work for you. See you next time.